We're back now with our special report, remembering the Palm Sunday tornadoes 60 years later. Our Joshua Short has been working on this story. Josh, I know a lot of people may not even know about this, but there are so many people still in this area who were just kids when this happened.
Just kids, Lauren, on this day in 1965, lives changed forever, okay? Families were reshaped, neighborhoods forever altered as well. But multiple tornadoes carved a path of destruction and death across 6 states in the Midwest on that day. Elkhart County got hit the hardest in our area. I talked to someone who was just a kid when this all happened, when his home was actually hit by a twister that day. A warning, some of the images you're about to see are undoubtedly really hard to watch. You were out here outside of your shop where you now work and you own this building. But 60 years ago, you were outside as a little kid doing what?
I was actually watching Lyndon Baines Johnson, our president at the time, and his motorcade coming past this very building.
That year was 1965, the South Bend Tribune calling it the Dark Passage. Les Eads is now a barber in the city where he grew up, Dunlap. He was 13 at the time.
These are the pictures that Paul Hoffman took, and this is how it started to form.
They say pictures can be worth 1,000 words, but even this image would present a challenge to any linguist. You're looking at twin tornadoes, a meteorological phenomenon barreling towards Elkhart County.
There was no daylight. This thing was on the ground.
These tornadoes, along with several others, would cause catastrophic damage across the region. These gruesome images taken after the tornadoes hit proves just that. There are no words.
There's always a bit of angst. But
Eads and I went back to the neighborhood where he grew up. He recalled that day, April 11, 1965.
when everything started happening, I had went into the house and made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Because you were on your bike initially.
I was on my bike, and the guy sent me home. His name was Art Willis. He was 6'7", and back then kids didn't say, "I'm not going home." You went home. I vividly remember going in, making myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, walking outside, and it probably wasn't more than 15 minutes from when he gave me that warning that happened. And I came outside, and the neighbor lady was screaming, "Oh, there it is."
And she was looking this direction.
She was looking this direction. And I was 13, so I don't see anything. And then I see this huge, it was not a funnel, it was a black wall with debris. Now, the story sounded better if I had couches coming out, all kind of stuff, but it wasn't that. It was just debris flying out. That's
But
what I knew
it was quiet before you went back in that home.
There wasn't anything moving, not a stick, nothing. It had hailed, it got cooled very quickly, and then, bam, it was on us.
He says he ran into the basement with his mom, his brother, and 2 sisters. He described the tornado as something louder than a freight train.
The freight train thing and the ears popping, the main thing as a young kid I thought about. Yeah.
Wow.
That and the devastation when you walked out and it was like a landfill.
You walked out and you had no roof?
No roof, no second story, no first story. The floor stayed on just above where we were at.
In the basement.
Exactly.
In one neighborhood here in Dunlap, there's a memorial that has been set up to remember the lives lost here in this community. We could tell you hundreds of people lost their lives throughout the Midwest. But when you look at this picture, you can see just how massive the tornadoes were. At least 5 hit Elkhart County with winds ranging up to 270 miles per hour.
I remember playing, basketball with Ed Harold. He was a good athlete. You just had pickup games all over, like most neighborhoods back in the day. But when you see this is a little more stark reality because the names fade. You're a kid. And then when you come back here and see this, it's like, wow.
You recognize some of the names?
Oh, a lot of them. I mean, there's people live behind us, 2 doors down from us, next door to me. I mean, it just goes on and on. So it's pretty. I didn't think it'd be this. I'd get out of here, take a look at them. So, yeah.
A little emotional.
A little bit more, yeah. A little more real.
During our interview, the team noticed a group of kids playing nearby, around the same age Les Eads was when those tornadoes changed his life.
What happened, it was 2 stories. So, yep, it took the 2 stories off, okay, and the floor stayed on. We were in the basement, and that's what saved us.
That's what saved them. Keep in mind, he ended up with some hearing loss after that tornado. from which he still suffers today. You saw some of the pictures there of the rescue efforts in the hours after the twisters as well. Get this, Les told me the winds were so powerful, cars from his block, including his mother's car, ended up in the Elkhart River blocks away. Those who still had their cars were asked by local officials to use them as temporary hearses. That just shows you the story. There was some good in this we want to talk about. We've gotten calls about how community members showed up to help, including teens from church groups and volunteers from around the state as well, just to help clean up debris in different neighborhoods, farms as well, because that is the season for this, and of course some of the businesses in Dunlap, which is right between Goshen and Elkhart. They were hit really hard.
No surprise about this community coming together in a time of need. I especially love that last shot, if I can just mention quick. Him talking to the
the
kids,
teaching moment.
educating about 60 years later.
They were in shock. They were like, what? You live right here? It was they couldn't understand exactly what happened all those years ago. You brought up something too. He described he didn't hear anything.
Right moments right before, and the reason for that, we were discussing during that package there, the wind goes straight up right in front of a tornado. So the wind's going straight up into the tunnel of the tornado, into the storm, and not going straight across, which is why he wasn't able to hear the wind, because he was right in front or about ready to be hit.
How terrifying is that?
It's something.
We were so thankful for him to tell us. Those pictures really helped tell the story.
Yeah, and again, that tornado picture of the double vortex tornado, that's the first known image here of a double vortex tornado across the world 60 years ago, and that's in almost every meteorological textbook that breaks down tornadoes and severe weather. And you got to remember, back in 1965, radars were just starting to be used to track storms. Really, tornado sirens were just brand new as well. There were no smartphones, no social media, so unless you're really in front of a screen, you weren't able to really get the info out to the...
Some people talked about having those radios, but not everyone had those radios.
No, and if you weren't with that radio at that moment, you had no idea what was coming. And in fact, they lost a telephone service right as that was hitting Dunlap, Elkhart County, and they weren't able to notify some folks up into southwestern Michigan of these tornadoes. So over 137 unfortunately died 60 years ago back in the state of Indiana, and 60 years ago, 1965, still goes down as Indiana's deadliest tornado outbreak, and 84 of those 137 unfortunately passed away in Elkhart County, and overall 47 tornadoes touched down spanning 6 states. And here's a breakdown locally of these Palm Sunday tornado paths. The orange is F3 tornado and the red F4 tornado. And likely, if this were rated today, wouldn't be surprised if some of this was possibly F5 damage. Here's a look across the tri-state area. You can see all the 6 states that were impacted. A day again that's been remembered for decades and will continue to be remembered for decades as well. And it was due to this Palm Sunday tornado outbreak that really set the stage going forward for our understanding and changing of the F scale to the EF scale that we use today, which takes into account not only the wind speed of the tornado, but now also the damage done to those structures. And something, again, that's going to continue to be remembered for decades to come.